guys, so today I am going to just do some more problems dealing with surface area and volume of similar solids. I'm hoping to get through 4 problems today, so we'll see how it goes. This first one though is pretty straightforward. I wanted to start with this one because it's a little bit of a review of what we talked about yesterday. So I drew 2 cones on the board, and I'm telling you, okay, I'm giving you the information that they are similar. And so the instructions just say, here are 2 similar figures, find the scale factor, then find the ratio of the surface areas, and find the ratio of the volume. So it's just a little bit of practice here. So if they are similar, we can pick one of the 2 measurements to work with that are part of the same placement in the, part of the same measurement in the cone. So we're either going to pick the 200 and the 160, or we're going to pick the 100 and the 80. All right, I'm going to just go ahead and use 200, put it over top of 160. Okay, so I have 200 over 160. Now that is technically my scale factor, but that's very much reducible, so we're going to go ahead and make that as small as possible. And so if I divide, well, I can first of all take the zeros away. I can divide both the top and the bottom by 4. And I end up with 5 over 4. And that is my scale factor, okay? So then what we talked about yesterday was, if you have a scale factor of 5 over 4, that means you just take those numbers and you square them to find the surface area ratio, okay? So the surface area ratio is just 25 over 16, okay? And then for my volume, I have to, now I don't use this, I go back to here and I cube these numbers. So 5 cubed is 5 times 5 times 5. And 4 cubed, 4 times 4 times 4, is 125. Okay? So that's how you deal with your surface area and volume relationships when you have the scale factor. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Let's look at some of these other problems that kind of go backwards, are a little bit more challenging. All right, so if I give you, now, I'm done drawing shapes. Whew. All right, so if I give you the next problem, I tell you that my scale factor for a certain shape is 1 to 2, okay? And then I tell you that the surface area of the smaller figure, okay, and that's important, and the volume of the smaller figure, okay, so these are both for the smaller figure. Those are the surface area and volumes. What is the surface area and what is the volume of the larger figure? All right, so if we have to do this 2 different ways. We can't do it all at once. So I'm going to start with the surface area, and I know I have a surface area of 90, and so I'm going to need to find the surface area of my larger figure using my scale factor. But I cannot just set this equal to 1 over 2 because that's the scale factor, and I'm dealing with surface area. So I need to take my scale factor and I need to square it before I can use it to help me find the surface area of the larger shape. And so I square 1 over 2 and I write 1 over 4. And now I'm going to do 90 times 4 equals my surface area times 1, which means, there you go, there's my surface area. All right, so my surface area is going to be 360 squared yards. And so now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to use my volume. So I have 216 over volume. But instead of setting that equal to 1/4, I need to set that equal to 1 over 2 cubed, 1/8. Okay, but same thing here. Cross multiply, 216 times 8 is 1,728. And that's just equal to the volume times 1. So that is my volume, and that is yards cubed. All right. So still going in the forward direction here. We're given some information, and we need to use it to find what they're looking for. Okay. So those first 2, still pretty straightforward. We're at 5 minutes, so this is perfect. All right. next two problems are going to be very similar to each other. So I'm going to give you two solids. Again, no drawing involved. Okay, and so let me just do this. For the first solid, I have a surface area and a volume. Okay, the second solid, I have a surface area of 425, but I don't know the volume, and I need to figure that out. Okay, now unfortunately I cannot just set this up as a proportion with the surface area and volumes. It doesn't work that way. So I am going to need to use the information that I have double of to work backwards to find my scale factor, then use the scale factor and use that to find the volume. All right. So for this one, I'm going to start by taking the two matching pieces of information, which is the scale factors, or I'm sorry, which is the surface areas, and I'm going to set them up in a proportion. Okay, so I have this. I need to square root that. I need to find the perfect squares. These are not perfect squares though, so I'm going to go ahead and reduce that. If you divide, if this should be your clue right here, start dividing out some. If you have a number that ends in a 5, or even better yet, a 25, chances are the perfect square that comes out of this is 25. Okay, so divide 425 by 25 and see what you get. 425 divided by 25, you get 17. Okay, so this is 17 times 25. So if I want the 25 to be over here, I'm hoping that this number is divisible by 17 as well, because then they cancel out. So I go 1088 divided by 17, and I get 64. Perfect. So this number is 17 times 64. So the 17s cancel out, and I have 64 over 5. Those are both perfect squares, because remember, we're dealing with surface area right now. So I'm going to go ahead and take the square root, and I get 8 over 5. There's my scale factor. In order to use it to help me find the volume, though, I need to take these numbers and I need to cube them before I set it up with a proportion. So I'm going to have 13312 over volume, and I'm going to set that equal to 8 cubed over 5 cubed. 8 cubed is, you can do that in your calculator, but it is 512. 5 cubed, 125. These are big numbers. Please use your calculator, but you should do 13,312 times 125 and V times 512, and then you'll divide both sides by 512. You should end up with 3250 cubic kilometers. Kilometers. I don't know. Anyway. All right. So that was problem number 3. Again, I'm going kind of fast, but that's because I'm limited on the length of my videos. And you can pause and rewind and, send me a message if you have any questions. We can chat. I do want to make sure I get all 4 of these on here, and we have one more. Okay, so solid number 1. I should have left that there. Okay, same deal here, but now we're going to be missing a surface area. So solid number 1, we have a surface area of 468 squared feet. We have a volume of 1944 cubic feet. And then we have solid number 2. We don't know the surface area this time, but we have a volume of 9 feet. 9 cubic feet. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing as the last problem, but now we're working with the different measurement. Now I'm starting with the volume numbers, okay? I have 2 volume numbers, so I'm going to go ahead and put them over top of each other. please be careful because this 9 is a perfect square, but we're dealing with volumes, so we need numbers that are perfect cubes. 9 is not a perfect cube. It is 3 plus 3 plus 3. So a lot of people think it's 3, but it's not. So since 9 is not a perfect cube, but we know 1 is, I'm going to go ahead and try to, because the only other perfect cube that has the potential of working is 8, but you can't get the 9 to be an 8. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 9, and hopefully this is divisible by 9. And it is. 9 divided by 9 gets me a 1. And 1,944 divided by 9 is 216. And so, again, if you play around with your calculator, play around with your numbers, you'll see that 216 is a perfect cube. In fact, it is 6 cubed. So my scale factor is 6 over 1. Now, before I set that up, or before I use those numbers to find my surface area, remember, I have to go back to those numbers and I need to square them. And now I can go through and cross multiply. And if I cross multiply here, I get 468 times 1 equals 36 times surface area. Divide both sides by 36, and I end up with a surface area of 13 squared feet. Okay, so we're going to practice doing some of those problems. Reach out to me if you have questions or if something confused you. Watch the video again. Please make sure you're taking notes, and we will talk about this later. All right, see you guys.